Before I kickstart this video, I just want to say that if you're not part of our Telegram community, be sure to join us. Just check out the group, check out what we're about, check the conversation. Super healthy, super helpful, and quite well mannered. All right. And we have something cool coming up soon for all the DeFi lovers, so check us out. Today's main topic of conversation will be centered around Velodrome and the health of its protocol. Now, Velodrome, if you don't know, is the leading DEX on Optimism. So this is where people go to buy, sell, provide LP, and earn the VELO token as rewards. All right, so they have been around ever since Optimism launched the layer 2, and they transitioned from V1 to V2. So they are following the Uniswap V2 model. So they don't have, targeted ranges when it comes to liquidity provision. But they are technically a solidly fork, meaning the VELO token can be vested to earn a portion of the bribes and the fees of specific pools. Now, while everyone focuses on the price of a certain asset that is driven mainly by sentiment and speculation, most unfortunately tend to overlook the most important metrics when it comes to projects like Velodrome. Because for me, the price of the VELO token is irrelevant. What is relevant is the health of its protocol. How is the LP? Is it making money? Is there value capture to the VELO token? How's the liquidity, fluctuating on the protocol itself? So all of these will be discussed, starting with the LP to market cap ratio. So to do this, you simply have to go to the VELO chart itself and look at how much liquidity there is for the market cap that the VELO token currently has. Remember, market cap for me is a made-up value. So what it does tell me is that there is X amount of tokens in circulation and they are priced at right now 5.2 cents. So multiply these two and you get the market cap. Liquidity is much more important. Is there enough money for people to cash out their VELO? Clearly there is. Right now, if you ratio these out, it's about between 25 and 27%, which is quite good considering the fact that VELO, again, can be issued indefinitely. Up to a certain point, of course, but keeping this in mind, liquidity is currently being added to the VELO USDC pool and it's showcased by how much money there is. So remember that 5.2 million that you see, you have to slash this by 2 in order to get the value that you would get from selling VELO if everyone were to do this at once. But again, this is irrelevant because that's not how LP works, but it's just an idea of what you would expect. So, first point, check. Liquidity is strong enough considering how much VELO there is in circulation. Now, moving on, and that, for me at least, is the most important part of the protocol health check. Is the protocol making money? And is the VELO token in a situation where there is enough value capture for people not only to buy it, but to hold it. Because many are generating VELO tokens, so is it at a place where it's worth holding? That's very important. Now, the protocol's money-making situation can be looked at from two directions. One, you can check quick stats on the Velodrome page. So if you look at the volume, if you look at how much fees, this is, by the way, on a weekly basis, if I'm not mistaken. So at 3 cents per dollar of volume, there are, decent fees that are being generated. So I think last time I checked, that was 2 weeks ago, there was less volume, by the way. So now we have more volume, aka more fees. But remember, this is not a linear distribution. Each pool has its own, volume / fee metric in terms of, distribution. So it's not an equal distribution. You cannot just divide this volume by all the pools. Some pools may have more, some pools may have less, so on and so forth. So it's depending on where you have, attributed your VELO tokens if you are part of the VELO flywheel. So what I mean here is that, is there enough money that is going back to the VELO stakers to make it worthwhile them vesting their tokens versus selling them on the open market? And clearly that is still the case. All right, so right now, if you want to get a rough estimate on the APR of what VELO is providing, you can do so but by simply doing a quick ratio, or, and that's a better option here, there are Dune Analytics dashboard where you can go and check what's the situation in terms of volume, what's the situation in terms of bribes and fees. Scroll a bit down and you look at how much cumulatively the protocol has made in fees. 5.3 million up to date. That's quite impressive. And if you want to understand a bit about the differentiation between bribe money and fee money, let's go down a bit and we'll have something here for us that will show us. And also this is a cool metric because this shows the commitment that people have towards the Velodrome protocol. So people are okay with locking their tokens at an average rate of 3.62 years while earning bribe slash fee plus fees rewards on these stakes that they have. 850 mil of VELO tokens are currently staked. So like I said, let's do some quick math here. Let's go down and look at the epochs here. So you can clearly see from epoch to epoch that the volume itself and the locked value, for example, here is increasing, which is good. So we are getting still fees, we're getting more volume, and the situation is still looking quite healthy. So overall, so the 5 million that you saw up there was driven by fees. So overall, the VELO holders have earned 31.1 mil. Now, quick math, 850 mil of VELO tokens are worth today about 42 million. So if you divide the revenues over the VELO holders, so that's somewhere between 70 to 80% APR on your VELO as of today. But this is not very specific math because I'm assuming that everyone has their VELO tokens bought at the market price of 5.2 cents, which isn't the case. Of course, you have people who bought way cheaper, you have people who bought at a higher price, or they accumulated their VELO tokens at a higher price. So there is disparity here, but the logic stands. The APR is quite decent and people are seeing value in locking up their VELO tokens versus just selling them on the open market. So granted, the fees and bribe curve has decreased, true, but you can clearly see that there is room for fluctuation. So it goes up and down, then up and down, and now we cannot really know where that takes us from here. But if volume picks up on chain, clearly Velodrome will capture some of this volume, right? So like I said, this is a very cool website. So if you're not familiar with Dune's analytics, some people do this for free. They just generate queries and then they show you what's happening in terms of whatever you want to see. So I'm gonna leave actually link to this below. You can check it out. There are many tables that you can look at in terms of protocol revenue, in terms of VELO stakers, so on and so forth. So look at what you need, and it's being updated, by the way, because currently we're at epoch 80, as you can see, and look at the epoch end. So it ends in almost 3 days. So this is being updated because there are many others, but this one is the most current one and the most accurate one, at least from what I saw. So moving on, and perhaps that is the last point that I want to touch here, is the liquidity fluctuation, which ties in with whatever we just discussed. If you go on DeFi Llama now, you can clearly see the liquidity chart of the Velodrome protocol. So granted, we're not in a perfect situation overall, surely, but it is still an uptrend. If you look at the resistance line here, technically speaking, the liquidity is fluctuating in a net positive way, all right? Even though it has risen to the 300 mil, but then it dropped. Now you can offset this by looking at the liquidity ratio or the liquidity fluctuation on Optimism overall, but you can clearly see that the liquidity on OP is increasing. All right, so it's not decreasing. So Velodrome is going against how Optimism is operating right now. And if you scroll back down a bit, you can get a feel of who is capturing that TVL. So they have dropped 13.5% on the month. And who is taking over that TVL? So you have this DEX right here, Beethoven. I'm not sure who they are, haven't checked them out. And you also have Aura, which is another solidly fork, by the way, built on top of Balancer, is also capturing lots of TVL lately. They're at plus 55%. So, all right, so you can get a feel of who is taking money from Velodrome. But the situation is, this is part of the game. So a DEX can never, I mean, okay, there are exceptions like Uniswap, for example, which is the leading DEX on Ethereum. It started there and it's still going in terms of, you know, domination on Ethereum, but this is an exception because they are the first to start this whole basically DEX movement. So there are a few exceptions, first mover advantages granted, but overall this is part of the game. Liquidity fluctuation, asset appreciation, and LP movements. So people sometimes, specifically the one that chase the highest APR, will tend to look at where is the highest APR for my pool, and then they will go and chase that. For me, that's not the best tactic, you know, because in the long term you might end up losing, and if you happen to, you know, stumble upon a rug or a scam, then, you know, everything is lost and you would have made these moves for nothing. So, conclusion, overall, Velodrome is still quite a nice place for you to park your LP and take advantage of the flywheel that is currently working. That's what I'm doing. Many agree with me, hence the 132 million liquidity, and clearly there's still interest because protocols to this day, after 80 weeks, are still providing bribes because people are still interested in how Velodrome is operating and how I mean, basically their presence in the solidly DEX movement. All right, so I think that's all I'm gonna say here. I did talk a lot, I did reference many things. Now, apologies if I rambled a bit too much when it comes to some of these points, but I just wanted to put it out there for people who are concerned and for people who think that, you know, the price is dropping, what's happening. Again, put the price aside, look at the metrics, focus on what the protocol is doing and how healthy it is. All right. And with that, see you on the next one. Have a good one.